Good evening. And these are my meditations. I'm here for a meditation to close the COP. Many pavilions are packing down. Our neighbors are packing down. So I was lucky to borrow their flowers for decoration. And these flowers haven't had any water for 2 weeks. So let's see if we can save them. And it's kind of symbolic for what the earth. They don't have a cup underneath, so that's why. Yeah, it's a little bit symbolic for what the earth is going through. No water. And tonight, as it happens, is the last night of COP. So I'm happy to be here with friends so we can have a meditation together to close this long 2 weeks of negotiations, activities, and thinking. So Mark, I've invited Mark to frame the meditation in scientific context for us. So please, Mark, you come and sit next to me. And for those of you here who don't know Mark, he's a good friend. He's a managing director, scientific director of IS, International, I forgot now, Sustainability Institute in Potsdam. And he's an integrative scientist who addresses key challenges. And you have a professional introduction, Mark, but I think I'll introduce you as my friend also, and a friend of Brahma Kumaris, and a friend of Caroline especially, who is also working there, and someone who Maureen just said, you always become in a good mood when you're next to Mark. So I think that's the best introduction for tonight, isn't it?
I don't think I could ask for a nicer one. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sonia, for the very unusual and very kind introduction. I really appreciate that. I must admit, it feels a little bit odd sitting up here and talking to my mostly Brahma Kumaris friends about meditation. But maybe I'll give a little bit of a scientific twist on it, and I think that's what you were looking for. And especially for a couple of others, including my long-term friend Pam, who I haven't seen for quite a while, 2-3 years, and it's wonderful to see you again joining here. And then thank you very much for hosting us in this space. Project reminds us, in my thinking, of two things. One, coolness against all this discussion of global warming. And of course, we've been experiencing the coolness in this building with the incredible air conditioning that is that's almost devastating to people's health, but at the same time, vulnerability. And the Arctic, as we know, is such an incredibly vulnerable place, with warming going on at a rate more than twice the rate of the rest of the world, and an ecosystem that is so sensitive to the warming that we're experiencing. And that vulnerability brings me around a little bit to the thoughts that I have on meditation that I wanted to share briefly as a bit of a framing, which is that not only is, of course, the Arctic ecosystem vulnerable, but we each as individuals and as humanity as a whole are vulnerable. And what we can do to strengthen ourselves against that vulnerability is to improve our resilience in many ways. And so, of course, ones that are very commonly practiced by our society include exercising, um, less commonly practiced eating a good diet, very commonly practiced socializing with people. Quite commonly practiced in some cultures is taking breaks and vacations, and other cultures hardly at all. And of course, one that can really help us with our resilience, our personal resilience, and our community resilience is introspection and meditation. And one of the things that I wanted to bring across is that there are so many different forms of meditation. That something that I've observed, and a number of people that aren't familiar with meditation tends to think of meditation as meditation, and they know one form of meditation, and they've been showed that or heard about that, and they think that's it. And over these last years that I have become more and more involved in practicing meditation, I've been exposed to so many different forms, and it tells me that that smorgasbord can be good and it can be challenging. It can be good that people can have opportunity to find what fits well to them in their own personal context. And it may be something that's based on their roots of how they grew up. I didn't even realize that there are Christian meditations, and I grew up going to a Christian church, and until I met our Bishop Philip Huggins, and he introduced Christian meditations here. Um, there are many meditations that may be connected to the roots of what you grew up with, but there may be others that connect to your person. So one thing that I would certainly encourage those who are looking to look around, and those who have found to be pleased and cherished that the fact that they have found what fits to them. Now, when it comes to meditation, and when it comes in general to principles for developing the self, one of the ones that is very important to me to bring across and that I try to practice is a saying that used to bother me, but I've come to cherish it. It's, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So for me, there are days like today where I have had two breaks for short meditations. One that I took 5 minutes after a Board of Trustees meeting to let that all sink in and prepare myself for the next steps, and one shortly before taking a power nap. And as a way of preparing my mind for being able to deal with the next steps. That's certainly not the perfect by any means. But if I were to say, well, if I don't have an hour in the morning to really sit and delve into a deep meditation, then I won't bother at all, then that would be letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. I found in my life for a long time, and in people that I know, that attitude tends to become very dominant. If I can't take whatever time it is for meditation, if I can't exercise a certain amount of time, if I can't completely drop sugar out of my diet, if I can't be completely away from milk products, if I can't, whatever it is, if I can't do this perfectly, if we can't stay under 1.5 degrees, well, then why should we bother? If we can't keep pollution under this level, why should we bother? Well, we should still bother. At least most of us would think so. And overcoming that nature of don't let the enemy of the good is very important for me in meditation. But still doing the good that we can and striving towards whatever we consider to be perfect is great. And that's the third point that I have, is that this type of exalted state that one brings oneself into, and not just the internal state of I feel good, but of externally, what we can share with each other. And what you said about when you sit next to me, you find yourself in a good mood. I've hardly heard that before, and I'm so pleased to hear that because often when I sit next to my Brahma Kumaris friends, I find myself in an inspired and reflective state, and I cherish that very much. And this is what we can bring out into the world with us. And when you really think about sustainability, it's not just about staying below 1.5 or 2 degrees. It's not just about keeping completely below some degree of micrograms per cubic meters. It's much more about making a world that's livable and wonderful. And that depends very much on our own individual states. In those individual states, we can hone into the states that we want them to be inside us through various meditative practices. The fourth point is something that's very important for somebody who's in any kind of busy position. That means anybody who's at the top. Beware of McMindfulness. McMindfulness is a term that a colleague of mine, one of the who spent some time at the ISS, came up with, which is the idea that you can do mindfulness practices to increase your ability to withstand challenging states. And indeed, mindfulness can help you to be able to deal with challenging states better. But it can also have a downside to it that we might think, well, okay, I'm having a hard time dealing with this situation at work. I think I just need to be more mindful. I'm having a hard time dealing with the fact that the climate negotiations aren't moving forward. Well, maybe I should just be more mindful and accept it. That can lead us into a false state of acceptance of things that we don't really want to be accepting, and we think it's our fault that we can't deal with these. Instead of gaining courage and insight through meditation to help us to take on the challenges that we really want to take. There's this wonderful statement of God grant me the strength to change the things that I can, the grace to accept those things that I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. Meditation is a way of helping develop that wisdom, that grace, and that strength. And finally, for the last one, for anybody like me who needs the reminder, we're here. At this moment, we're here together, and we have a wonderful opportunity to share some together. And I thank you so much for the invitation to be here together with you and the chance to share some of things that have been developing in my understanding of this interaction together over these last years. And I look forward to cherishing the time together here.
Thank you so much, Mark. Be careful here now. So after this beautiful introduction, I think it's time we do have some meditation together. So we'll invite Maureen. Sister Maureen is the program director of Brahma Kumaris in the UK and representative to Brahma Kumaris representing United Nations in Vienna. And she also have a long-standing work in interfaith work and environment. And I forgot to welcome everyone who's listening online, so I'll do that now. And then we can have a nice meditation together.
Thank you very much. And Mark, well, Sonia, thank you for the introduction. And Mark, thank you for your wise words, really. Because this kind of reflection and reflective attitude towards the self really helps us to know the self better and understand where I can make the best contribution. Because I think each one of us is very unique, and each one of us has a unique contribution to make to the world, to the earth, to humanity. And I know I'm meant to meditate, but just want to share a few thoughts because being here these 2 weeks has really been a big education for me. On the one hand, it's been an education to see how much, everybody has been doing and working, and really appreciating that. The other education has been, to see that there has been a bit more of a pessimistic atmosphere around than Glasgow, I have to admit. And so that really makes me think that we need to have that inner spiritual nourishment more than ever. And of course, we will do that in different ways, but it's just so important. Um, Something that I shared, I think, at the last reception that we had was about 3 things I've been working with myself. And it does involve acceptance first, acceptance, understanding, and compassion. And these 3 steps, and acceptance in the sense that I I accept what's going on. I'm not trying to avoid it or pretend that it's not happening. In that sense, acceptance. It's there, it's real, it's in front of me. And so with climate change, we have to accept that things are in a very critical state. We know it. We must face up to that and not try and just say everything will be all right. And the understanding, what has brought us to this state and where do we have to go next? But it's very important to understand our actions and the consequences of our actions. And compassion is towards the self, towards humanity, towards the earth. Compassion says, what can I do? What can I do now to help make things better, or to improve, to inject something positive, to do something that is going to uplift. It is so important that there is action. But if the action comes from the acceptance, the understanding, compassion, then it's going to be action that will be effective on every level, because it's not just an action, it's actually bringing a different atmosphere and vibration to the earth. And we need a different atmosphere right now. And so let us enjoy the atmosphere of meditation in our inner world. And it is a beautiful world to get to know. So feet on the floor and just a couple of deep breaths, and let me really go on an inner journey. There are many distractions around me, not just, of course, of the physical noise, but these 2 weeks, many thoughts of what's happened, could have happened, should have happened, and what next. But for meditation, let me just set all of that aside for a short period of time so that I can go into another dimension of the self, the dimension of inner silence. We need inner silence and stillness. It's our anchor, it's our respite, it's our strength. So I can slide into that space of stillness to discover my inner treasures, my mind, and the power of my thoughts, the energy of my thoughts are a treasure. How am I using these? Can I use them to discover the depth of my own being? When I go inside, I discover an oasis inside that I didn't know. Maybe I didn't know existed, maybe I did. oasis of peace. For every human being on this earth, peace is the original nature of the being within, the spiritual self, the soul, the spirit, the consciousness. I am a being of peace. Peace that cannot be disturbed by anything external. Peace that is part of me. I am a being of peace. I want to discover more about my being, the energy of the being. I am a being of light, spiritual energy that inhabits the costume of my body, and the focus for that light is in the center of my forehead. I visualize that star of light that is the self. I am light. I'm free in this awareness, free from worry, free from burdens, free to be in my original state of peace, free to be in my original state of love, free to be connected to the source of peace, the source of love. I absorb peace from the ocean of peace. I absorb love from the unlimited source of love. That energy flows into my being and out into the world. The energy of love heals. Love transforms. The energy of love can create a world of love, can inspire love in every human heart. I am a being of peace. I am a being of love. And I carry this awareness with me into everything that I do. Thank you. Thank you. Huh? I think it was interesting that as you were meditating, the singing became more inspired. Maybe we can have just a little discussion between us about this, how we really keep this energy, because this energy, there's so much that needs to happen, and that energy inside has to be so strong for it to happen in the right way, right? So any thoughts about that we have?
How to keep the energy?
The energy of love, the energy of peace, but that makes our activism sacred activism, right? Otherwise it's just can be aggressive. Yeah. Any thoughts?
When I drive back from COP every day, there is an advertisement for Sharks Bay in some of the hotels, and it has a big sign, "Let go." And I thought, oh yeah, I got to let go. Okay, everything is fine. And if I can't do it, then I'll have to go away from people, go for a walk or something, and then everything just falls into place and love comes back. But sometimes if I'm together with other people too close, then I kind of lose my overview, and that I will have to practice, right? Because I can't always go for a walk. Here we have a rooftop which I can go to, which is also very useful. But of course, many moments happens, and it's also possible to meditate most noisy spot in the whole COP, and that was fantastic. So thank you, Maureen.
So why or how we use meditation for inner empowerment? That's a question. Um, having been here for 2 weeks with a group of people who were the team after space was in this context, sometimes also challenging in terms of just being tired, being overwhelmed by all the emotions and the noise and so on. I really appreciate that all of my colleagues are having some kind of meditation or reflection or journaling, because it really makes such a difference Now I'm talking about my colleagues from the ISS, but of course also my colleagues from the Brahma Kumaris. It helps so much if you do a big task together over a long stretch of time. If everyone in the team has kind of some kind of self-regulation method and also is self-reflective, so that when maybe something is not working so well, you can say, oh sorry, maybe that was a bit too much, or so I want to say it really improves also working together and relationships. And for me, when I feel I cannot help my I cannot keep my level of concentration and so on, just to step back and stabilize myself in peace and allow it to flow through my body as well as into the atmosphere. It just makes an enormous difference, and it doesn't take that much time. It's just the matter of remembering it, and then reminding each other about it as well. So these are my thoughts about COP and meditation.
For me, the way I see it, that we have to keep the container full as much as possible. And that container is our inner world, our power, our stability, our being anchored. So to keep it full is to do our meditation. And of course, the most powerful time for meditation is in the early morning. So the more we fill at that time, the more we have reserve, the more we have a fuel for the full day, and not only for the full day, because it doesn't fill only for that day, but it flourishes the power and virtues within that help me to transform. So again, to refill, morning meditation and the short meditations, as you mentioned, you have done it one time today and then you had the nap. So those short meditations is to fill. And in order not to lose, not to drain, is for me recently I am applying putting the full stop as much as possible. And full stop, the way I find it interesting to do it and entertaining to do it. If something happened, I try to use the full stop of me, the energy. I try to put the full stop of the Supreme. I try to put the full stop of me with the Supreme as a combined form. And by this, I make it more entertaining rather than struggle to how to stop the thoughts and how to deal with the thoughts. This is the second point. And the third point, as you said, Caroline, to maintain being centered. The more we are centered, the more we are anchored, the more we will be able to be observer, the more we'll be able to accept with less effort. Because when we are detached, we don't do effort to accept whatever is going around us. So this is in essence. Thank you.
First of all, thank you for really inviting me this time. I'm really enjoying the whole atmosphere, really, the ups, the downs, all the scenes. And one thing for me that helps me to be empowered is actually understanding. I think Maureen, you touched on that. But for me, really, the key thing is understanding deeply the knowledge of who I am. And unless that's really concrete, then my foundation is not so strong. So I take the time also in the morning to reflect on that more deeply. And also, you mentioned, Mark, about mindfulness. For me, lately, the exercise, and I've been seeing the benefit of that, is really detachment in a way. Like detachment, meaning I'm seeing things, but I'm not giving energy to anything that I feel is not beneficial. So in a way, maybe something like what you shared, Awat, of the full stop, but it's more being aware, really. Maybe we use the term in the Brahma Kumaris, which is called karma yogi, which means like being in awareness while I'm in action. Because I realized, yes, meditation helps, but how much I can sit really in meditation. So yeah, just this raising this awareness and trying to see actually others and their also higher self. They might, I mean, they might be under certain conditioning, certain atmosphere that makes them act the way, they're acting. But in the core, they're also, I mean, we're all the same. So that also helps me to keep that silence. And actually, one thing that's also powerful is the powering. When we share thoughts with each other, we learn from each other. I see that also very helpful. So thank you. Thank you, Caroline, for bringing us to this beautiful atmosphere also. Have a nice group.
I would just say one thing. Arhatia, right? How do you say your name? Arwatif. It's interesting that you reminded me that I actually forgot one meditation this morning. I'm in such a habit when I wake up that I'll do about 10 minutes of metta meditation, a loving kindness. It's basically starting with loving kindness for the self and expanding out to the world. And it's such a habit in the morning to do that I wasn't even thinking about it, and that's there. But you're quite right about this point of if that's possible to ground in the morning in some form. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It used to take me a lot longer, but a few moments just to ground helps so much to start the day, and then reconnecting throughout the day. Traffic control or full stop or whatever we call it. It's very beautiful. And I think that that's something that is so missing at these kinds of interventions, these COPs. So where's a space where you can take 3 minutes even and peacefully sit down? There is a meditation room, which probably none of us have been to this time, or did you visit it? I used to go to those and sometimes. Did they? So, but I think that would do so much good for so many people who resist that, who think that they're above it and beyond it and don't need that kind of a break and can just power through, and that the reflectiveness and the perspective that comes with taking those moments is so important. I don't know how to communicate it better than inspiring and continuing to pass it on. Thank you.
Good evening. It was wonderful to arrive a bit late, and I could hear, and behind you there is amazing views of nature. And I was thinking, how beauty is also such an important thing within, and beauty also out there. And I was wondering about the connection between the inner beauty and the outer beauty. And I was remembering the people who know how to see beauty are not all the people. Some people don't know how to appreciate beauty. And I think that spirituality for me is also about that, about having the skill to see the beauty in people, to enjoy the beauty that is there inside me, to see God's beauty, to see nature's beauty, and to see the amazing, beautiful game of interaction.
Good evening. I'm also happy to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. And yes, especially this time, 2 weeks at this COP or other big gatherings, time that requires maybe extra inner nourishment. So for me, what I appreciate very much, and I feel very fortunate that we stay together and we have daily morning meditation all together. Usually it is by myself, which is wonderful, but there is power of gathering, and that really gives extra love and power, and it nourishes inner being very much. And then what I tried to, and what I think also nourished me here was as I went by throughout the day to notice and pick up values or virtues of people that I met. And I was able to see so many virtues in others. And it was really uplifting. And then it brings me to another point, which I think is something what we could do more, and we discussed about it. It's about changing the narrative. Now there is a lot about crisis, catastrophe, emergency, of course, but there are also so many good things that are happening at grassroots level. And if we and even government spoke more about it, the atmosphere would change. For example, there's one project which I love very much, the Great Green Wall, and it is a wonderful, very practical example. And there are more things like that. So I think for me, this is also important to see the positive and to focus on that and to speak about it. And then one more last thing is about consciously creating good wishes. Like to remember why I'm here. I'm here because I would like to help. I would like to share God's love and light. So consciously, as I go, I create good wishes for everyone and for the nature. And I think it keeps me also nourished. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very honest and inspiring sharing. And let's close this meditation session. We're closing COP tonight. We're closing our meditation now. And I'll guide a few words for the meditation now. Gratitude. Gratitude for this very moment, for COP, and gratitude for everything which is not perfect. So I'll ask you to sit comfortably in your chair. Take a deep breath and breathe deeply all the way to the bottom of your stomach. So we practice gratitude for the music we have. Live music to our meditation. We can practice gratitude for the fact that we are able to breathe. I breathe the same air as everybody else on this planet. Maybe the greatest gratitude is to be alive, to be immortal, to be alive forever. It was mentioned in the group that the power of the gathering and being together and supporting each other. So we can practice gratitude for this moment we are together.
mention the beauty of the inner world and the beauty of nature. So let's practice gratitude for Mother Earth and the beauty she shares with us. We're sitting in a circle, so let's make this the circle of light and put the earth in the middle. Together we embrace the earth with loving kindness, with light and good wishes. Embrace the earth with so much love that we can heal the suffering of so many living entities. So we take a deep breath, come back to this very moment. Om Shanti.
Thank you. It's just been a nice closure to our experience these 2 weeks. And Mark, thank you for being part of the family here. Do feel that. But it is lovely. It doesn't matter. Brahma Kumari is this. But when you're on the same wavelength and the hearts are aligned, then very much one family. And it's one family of humanity, right? We have to keep that in our vision very much. And I love that very much. So, if I remember Daddy Janki, did you ever meet Daddy? You heard a lot about her. Yeah. So, what would she say? She would say, okay, what is next? She never stopped. And so, somebody so internal and so powerful inside and so loving and so connected to God and so active. I mean, really, that element of God's energy, the mind, the head, the heart, the hands. Daddy really embodied that. So we have that inspiration with us. Thank you, Shanti.
Thanks to everyone for coming tonight. Yes.